There's something about county fairs that brings out the weirdos, the creeps, and sometimes things that don't even seem human. These aren't your average spooky tales. This is what happens when real people meet real danger in the most harmless place you can imagine. But before we dive in, welcome to Third Sight Cases, the channel where creepy meets cozy. I know a lot of you'll listen to these stories while winding down or trying to sleep, and I'm here to help you with both. So hit that like button, subscribe for more stories, and drop a comment where you're listening from and what time it is right now. This happened back in the summer of 2019. I was 21, fresh off finals week, and just needed to get the hell out of the city for a bit. My parents live in this small town out in Arkansas. I won't name it, but think of 2 stoplights, a Walmart, and 1 gas station that still had a broken card reader. The kind of place where everybody knows everybody, and the fairgrounds double as a high school football field when summer's over. I hadn't been back in a while, but my best friend Maddie decided to tag along with me for the break. We'd been roommates since freshman year and were basically glued at the hip. She's loud, sarcastic, zero filter, total chaos in human form. But she's also the type who'd throat punch a mugger if you needed her to. So yeah, not the worst person to have around when heading back to a town where stranger danger comes with a side of sweet tea. The plan was simple. Chill at my folks' place for a week, do absolutely nothing. Maybe check out the old lake, eat trashy food, and hit up the county fair if it lined up with our visit. And turns out it did. That year's summer fair ran from August 14th to 17th. It's kind of a big deal in those parts. Locals take their kids, high schoolers sneak off behind booths to make out, and older folks sit on fold-out chairs complaining about the heat. You know, pretty standard. It was humid as hell that whole week, like the kind of sticky where you shower twice and still feel like you rolled around in syrup. But the fair was still packed. I remember reading a Facebook vlog about how 2019 had one of the highest turnouts for that fair in 5 years. Around 3,000 people showed up over 4 days. Not bad for a town that barely cracks 5,000 in population. We spent most of the week just hanging around my parents' place. My mum kept trying to feed us like we were 12 again. Casseroles, pies, homemade lemonade in a mason jar with our names on it. Maddie was loving it. We'd sleep in, hit the lake in the afternoon, and then scroll through our phones under the busted ceiling fan in my childhood room like 2 bored teens. By Friday night, we figured we might as well check out the fair before heading back to the city on Sunday. And yes, the vibe was classic, like Ferris wheel spinning, smell of funnel cakes and fried Oreos in the air. Some high school band doing a cover of Bon Jovi that was ambitious, to say the least. Anyway, we weren't expecting anything wild. Just 2 girls soaking up the last bit of summer in a nowhere town. But yeah, that night ended way different than it started. When we arrived at the fair, the place was slammed. We circled the main lot twice and it was packed bumper to bumper. Trucks, sedans, lawn chairs in the beds, you name it. People were still pulling in, headlights cutting through dust, kids half asleep in the back seat. The only spot we could find was way the hell back, behind this long line of farm trucks and rusted trailers, basically right where the fairground started blending into woods. There weren't any lights back there. Just the glow from the fair in the distance and whatever moonlight was peeking through the trees. Maddie grumbled, but didn't complain too much. We both knew the walk back would suck, but whatever. It was summer. We were buzzed off cotton candy and teenage nostalgia, and I was like, no big deal. We locked the car, joked about how this was the part in a horror movie where people go missing, and made our way toward the fair. That's when it happened. These two huge dudes, leaning on the tailgate of a beat-up red pickup, spotted us. They were already clearly drunk, beer cans by their feet, one of them swaying like he was standing on a boat. I ignored them completely, just kept walking. But Maddie doesn't do quiet. When the guys started catcalling, the usual gross stuff, asking if we needed a ride or what color our panties was, she snapped. She threw out some insults about how their truck probably had more teeth than they did. Then she followed it up with something like, "Hope your dick's not as busted as your grill, you Dollar Tree Jason Momoa rejects." The bigger one actually flinched, like you could see the switch flip. His whole face dropped from dumbass grin to pissed. I pulled her arm, whispered something like, "Let it go," and we kept walking on. She laughed, loud and obnoxious, the kind that echoes and pokes the bear. I didn't think too much of it. I mean, we were at a fair. There were crowds, lights, noise, so it didn't feel like anything bad could happen. The rest of the night was pretty uneventful. We ate fried pickles, watched some guy nearly fall off the mechanical bull, took photos in one of those cheesy booths with the sparkly curtain. Around 11, we figured we'd head out. People were trickling to the exits, music was dying down, and we still had like a 30-minute drive back. On the walk back, Maddie kept saying she needed to pee, and I wasn't far behind. We'd both ignored it earlier, thinking we'd go once we got home. But now it hit us. There were 2 porta-potties near the edge of the parking area, not too far from where we left the car. No lights, tucked between 2 trailers, but they were unlocked and cleanish, so we went. We each took one, side by side. I remember the weird sound of bugs outside and how quiet everything felt compared to the fair. Then the door behind me jolted. At first I thought it was wind, then it shook again, harder. Someone was rocking it, and then I heard Maddie cuss. Not like she was annoyed, but like she was mad. She went off like a sailor in a bar fight, screaming, "You motherfuckers wanna play? Try me. I swear to God, I'll piss on your shoes and make you thank me, you creepy ass rejects." It was aggressive, like pirate energy with gasoline. I froze. That's when the guys started yelling. I couldn't see them, but I knew it was the same 2 from earlier. Their voices were unmistakable. Deep, drunk, slurred, but angry. They started rocking both porta-potties, laughing their asses off while doing it. I grabbed my phone so fast I almost dropped it. My heart was thumping like crazy. Then the banging got harder and louder. One of them was punching the plastic wall right behind where my back was pressed. I shifted forward, trying to breathe. Maddie was still going off, shouting things like, "Your mum should have swallowed." I've seen scarier dudes on toddler leashes. But that just made it worse. That's when I heard the sound that'll stick with me forever. A ripping sound, low and brutal, like something tearing through plastic. Then I saw it. A knife. A long hunting knife punching through the wall next to me. Then again and again. It missed my leg by maybe 2 inches. I screamed. The knife kept ripping through the wall. 5 times it stabbed through the side of my porta-potty, slicing holes into the wall like paper. I couldn't even think, just hit 911 and slapped the speakerphone on. The ringing felt like it lasted forever. Then, finally, the dispatcher picked up. I shouted everything I could, shaking, almost crying. As soon as I said the word knife, it all stopped. And then silence. No more voices. For a second, I thought maybe they were just holding their breath, trying to mess with us again. But then I heard it. The hurried stomp of boots on gravel crashing into each other as they scrambled to get away. One of them cursed under his breath, something panicked, like, "Shit, come on, let's go." Their footsteps got fainter by the second, echoing off metal and dirt until it was just dead quiet again. Just gone. When the cops showed up, it was like the whole world flipped back to normal speed. Red and blue lights bouncing off trailers, a cruiser pulling up next to the porta-potties like it was just another drunk call on a Friday night. But my hands were still shaking. Maddie kicked open her door like she was ready to throw down, still yelling, still full of fight. The moment she saw the deputy, though, she went quiet, just breathing hard and staring like she didn't even know what to do with all that leftover rage. They got us out, asked if we were okay. One of them handed me a bottle of water. The other kept his hand near his holster, like he expected the guys to pop out of the woods. We gave statements, told them everything. I pointed out where the knife had come through. Maddie showed them the boot prints on her door. They took photos, asked for descriptions. Big guys, white, early 30s maybe, drunk off their asses. Red pickup, no plates on the back and didn't see the front either. They combed the area with flashlights, found some fresh tire tracks leading back toward the side road that runs behind the fairgrounds, County Road 17. Apparently, it's a common hangout spot for locals to drink and mess around. One of the cops mentioned a few incidents in the past few years. A kid got stabbed there in 2016 during a fight over a girl. Another guy OD'd in his truck in late 2018. Same stretch of road. None of it was in the papers. We sat in the back of the cruiser for a bit, with the AC blasting. I remember staring at the rearview mirror, just watching my own face, trying not to fall apart. I looked pale, eyes wide, like I hadn't come down yet. Maddie leaned her head back and muttered, "I should have pissed on their boots." The officers gave us an escort back to our car. They insisted, so we didn't argue. The walk felt 10 times longer in the dark, even with flashlights and a cop beside us. Every branch crack or bug buzzing made my whole body clench. The car was untouched, but I half expected it to be torched or slashed or something. We got in, locked the doors, and didn't say a word until we hit the highway. No arrest came from it, at least not that we ever heard. We gave follow-up statements over the phone a couple of days later after we got back to the city. I called the sheriff's office a week after that. They said they were still looking into it, but didn't have much to go on. No plates, no cameras in that part of the lot. Just our word and some stab holes in a plastic toilet. So this is one of the most bizarre shit happened to me a few summers back, mid-July, when I decided to visit my cousin, who lives in this small town in North Carolina. Real laid-back kind of place. Got maybe 7,000 people if everyone's home for the weekend. I was just crashing there for a couple of days to chill, reset, and not think about work. Just a weekend thing. I wasn't expecting much. My cousin's place sits at the end of a long, cracked road, kind of tucked behind a bunch of pine trees and old farmland. It's quiet. Not creepy quiet, just the kind of stillness you forget exists when you've been living in a city. No car horns, no sirens, just the occasional barking dog or lawnmower in the distance. Honestly, it felt nice to disconnect a bit. She told me there was going to be a county fair that weekend, kind of their yearly thing, like rides, food, music, some local bands doing covers on a makeshift stage. Nothing big, but she hyped it up like it was Coachella or something. I figured, hell yeah, why not? could be fun. I hadn't been to a fair in forever anyway. The fair was set up at the edge of town in this open lot that backed up against some woods and a small creek. Classic vibe, Ferris wheel, bumper cars, food stalls selling corn dogs, deep-fried Snickers, and root beer floats. Teenagers running around like little tornadoes, screaming their heads off. The air smelled like grease, sugar, and dirt. You could hear yelling from the rides and music bleeding out from every janky-ass speaker. But honestly, it was kind of perfect. That first night was normal. We walked around, tried some sketchy-ass chili cheese fries, lost $5 on a rigged ring toss, and watched some toddlers feed goats at the petting zoo. Everything was exactly how it should be. Just chill, harmless, and low-stakes fun. I even caught myself actually relaxing, which says a hell of a lot considering how tightly wound I usually am. The next evening had the same buzz in the air, that kind of sticky summer vibe where everyone's sweaty, a little sunburnt, and just vibing off fried food and cheap thrills. I rolled out solo this time. My cousin had a migraine and bailed, so I figured I'd just make a quick loop, grab something sugary, maybe chill near the stage before heading back. It was around 6:30 p.m. when I got there. Still bright out, but that weird golden hour haze was starting to kick in. The fair was packed again, kids screaming near the rides, parents trying to corral them like drunk sheep, teens trying way too hard to look cool. Same booths, same smells, same cracked up midway. I was heading past the carousel when I noticed him. An older guy, probably in his late 60s, wearing baggy clothes, dirty sweatpants, heavy-ass winter boots, like he forgot what season it was. That alone was odd, but it was how he was standing that got me. He wasn't facing the ride or watching anyone, just staring blank into the crowd, arms stiff by his sides. He has no drink, no phone, not even a bag. He was just there, still as a damn statue. At first, I figured maybe he was waiting for someone. Or maybe he was just one of those folks who kind of zones out in public. But something about the way he stood, like he wasn't even blinking, started to creep me out. I walked past him, real casual, and tried not to look back. About an hour later, I was near the food court. This dusty strip of stalls where the smell of grease could probably knock you out cold. I was grabbing a lemonade, minding my own business, when I felt someone standing way too close, like right in my bubble. I turned, and yep, it was him. I didn't even hear footsteps, like no shuffle, no crunch on the gravel. Just, boom, he was right there. He wasn't even looking at me at first, just kind of angled toward the crowd. Then he turned his head, super slow, and said, "It's loud here, huh? They don't like it when it's loud." I froze. My stomach legit dropped. My brain just blanked. I stammered some half-assed reply like, "What?" But he just stared, lips pulling into this weird, off-putting smile. And it's not friendly. More like a mannequin trying to imitate a person. Then he pointed across the fairgrounds toward the picnic tables where a group of kids were playing tag and muttered, "They forget what they were." That was enough for me. I tossed my cup in the trash and dipped. With no hesitation, I speed walked through the crowd, acting like I didn't just get hit with the creepiest line of the year. I figured that'd be it. Just some bizarre interaction to laugh about later, but nope. Around 8:15, I was doing one last lap before heading out. The petting zoo was mostly cleared out, except for a couple families. I walked past it and saw a kid holding a clear plastic bag with a little goldfish inside. One of those lame fair prizes from the ball toss. Harmless, right? But then I saw him again. He came out of nowhere, like always. One second it was just the kid. The next second the guy was right there beside him. There's not even a sound. He just appeared. He stared at the goldfish for a second. Like, really stared. Then, without saying a word, he snatched the bag out of the kid's hand. The kid freaked out, obviously. But before anyone could move, this dude drank the water straight from the bag in one gulp. Then, with his freaky calm, he reached in and pulled the fish out. And he ate it. Raw. Alive. Chewed it slow like it was a fucking Jolly Rancher. Parents screamed. Some dude shouted, but the guy didn't even flinch. He just stared into space like nothing happened. Then he walked off. He didn't show panic, nor running. Just slow, steady steps like he was taking a stroll through the park. By the time security came sprinting over, he was already gone. People were freaking out. Like full-on chaos for a second. Parents grabbing their kids, folks backing up like he was radioactive. I stood frozen, heart pounding, brain trying to piece together what the hell I just saw. I mean, who the hell eats a live goldfish in front of a bunch of kids at a county fair? Security showed up maybe 30 seconds too late, radios blaring, and they were looking confused as hell. Everyone was pointing in a different direction, but the guy was already gone, just vanished into the crowd like smoke. I flagged down one of the fair staff and told them what happened. Their whole vibe changed instantly. Dude went pale, nodded slowly, and said, "Wait here." I thought I was in trouble or something, but then 10 minutes later, 2 sheriff deputies rolled up. Lights on, but no sirens. One of them had his hand on his belt like he already expected this to be weird. I repeated everything I saw, trying to keep my voice steady, even though my hands were still shaking like hell. That's when one of the cops stepped away to check his radio. I couldn't hear all of it, but a few seconds later he came back and asked, "Did you notice a yellow wristband on the guy?" I told him I wasn't sure. I hadn't been looking at his wrists. He gave this slow nod and muttered something to his partner. That's when it clicked for me. Something wasn't right. They weren't just treating this like some random psycho causing a scene. One of the deputies pulled me aside and said they were putting the fairgrounds on a soft lockdown. Said they'd gotten a bulletin earlier in the evening about a patient who escaped from a mental health facility roughly 30 minutes from the fair. An older male with erratic behavior, possibly dangerous. And yeah, he was wearing a yellow hospital band. Turns out, there really had been a bulletin about a patient who escaped from a mental health facility not far from the fair. The timeline fit, and the yellow wristband made it pretty clear. They never found him that night, or at least, not while I was still around. I gave my info and bailed hard after that. The whole drive back to my cousin's house, I kept checking my mirrors like he'd somehow be trailing behind me on foot. Like I'd blink and he'd just be sitting in the back seat. I didn't sleep that night. Kept imagining that weird-ass smile, and the way he just vanished still gives me chills. It started with a bag of trash. That's what I remembered. I was taking out the garbage on a Thursday night when I saw the shirt, some wrinkled, too expensive button-up I never bought for my husband, shoved down in the bin under a pizza box. It reeked of cheap perfume, like the kind you'd smell in a department store on payday weekend. That wasn't mine either. And right there, under the porch light, I saw the lipstick stain on the collar, bright red and obviously not mine. That was the end of it. I kicked my husband out the next morning. No second chances and no dramatic speech. Just the quiet slam of the front door and the sound of my own breathing in an empty house. And so, yeah, I wasn't exactly in the mood for fireworks and cotton candy. I'd only been married 3 years. We were supposed to be in the good part still, right? But after a few weeks of crying into takeout containers and watching garbage TV to fill the silence, I hit a wall. I couldn't sit in that damn house for another night, not with his toothbrush still in the drawer and his damn cologne still haunting the bathroom. That's how I ended up at the county fair. It was the same one I grew up going to, in a small rural town. 1 grocery store, 2 churches, and more rumors than stop signs. The fair was the big event of the summer. It wasn't glamorous, but it was loud, busy, and full of people. Exactly the opposite of my living room. I rolled in Friday evening and parked in the same dusty lot behind the softball field and just wandered. Didn't even really plan to stay longer. I just needed something to do. Some noise to drown out the ache sitting in my chest like a brick. I got a lemonade, watched a few kids scream their heads off on the Gravitron, and grabbed a greasy basket of fries from a food truck that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since 2012. And honestly, it helped. The noise, the lights, even the smell of fried dough and tractor fuel. It pulled me out of my own head, even if just for a little bit. Then I saw the tent, tucked way back behind the porta-johns and the fence that bordered the woods behind, and it looked like an afterthought. No flashy signs, no speaker blaring top 40 hits. Just this saggy tarp setup with flickering string lights and some strange painted symbols that looked like someone tried to summon a demon using glow-in-the-dark paint. The tent didn't look like part of the fair. Didn't look like it belonged anywhere, honestly. The first time I walked past it, I barely even registered it, but something about it scratched at the back of my brain. About an hour later, after finishing my fries and trying not to text my ex something I'd regret, I looped back, just to check it out. I figured it'd be some bored teenager in a cape reading tarot cards and telling me I was going to fall in love with a tall stranger or whatever. The inside of the tent smelled like dust and burnt incense. Not the good kind either. The kind that hits your nose like an old attic and clings to your clothes. It was darker than it looked from the outside, lit by a couple of dim lanterns hanging from wires and a tiny desk lamp with a cracked shade. There was just 1 folding table and 2 mismatched chairs. Nothing mystical, no crystal ball, no velvet cloth or wind chimes or anything you'd expect. And sitting in the far chair was a girl, not a woman, not a palm-reading old lady in scarves and rings. It was a teenage girl. She has pale skin, dark circles under her eyes, and a plain black hoodie pulled over her head. Looked like someone you'd see loitering in the back of a Hot Topic 10 years ago. She didn't say anything when I walked in. Just looked up at me like she'd been expecting it. She didn't ask my name, didn't even offer to read my palm or lay out cards. She just stared for a second and said, real flat, "Don't stay after the fireworks." And that was it. I waited for more, but nothing. She blinked once and looked back down at the table, which didn't even have anything on it, just empty space and silence thick enough to press on your chest. I said something like, "Okay," and slowly backed out, trying not to laugh. The whole thing felt like a prank, or some local kid trying to go viral on TikTok. Just weird enough to stick with you, not scary enough to run. But the second I stepped out of the tent, the air felt different. I remembered very well how heavy it was, like the moment when the power cuts out during a storm and the house goes dead quiet. I shook it off, told myself I was being dramatic, and went back to wandering the fair. But still, I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. I was supposed to meet up with some people I used to know. a group hanging out near the corn dog stand, playing some kind of drinking game with those souvenir refill cups. But I passed on it. That voice kept echoing in my head. Don't stay after the fireworks. It made no sense, but my gut was buzzing like a phone in my pocket. I ended up walking a few laps around the fairgrounds to clear my head. Told myself I'd stay until just before the finale and then dip out early. No big deal, just in case. When the fireworks started, I was already halfway to my car. I didn't even look back. I just kept walking toward the gravel lot behind the fairground fence. That's when I noticed something that stopped me cold. I could still hear the crowd cheering, still hear the booms and cracks of fireworks lighting up the sky. But as I passed a row of parked cars near the tree line, everything suddenly felt wrong. The lights behind me started flickering, not like full-on horror movie mode, but just enough to mess with your head. A couple went dim. One buzzed like it was choking on its last breath. Then I heard it. Yeah, I know. A rustling sound. Super cliche. But listen, this wasn't your average breeze through the trees vibe. It was this creepy, dry crackling, like dead leaves mixed with plastic bags dragging across pavement. And it's way too steady. I know it wasn't the wind. No shot. And whatever it wasn't in a hurry, like it knew I wasn't going anywhere. I turned again and saw her. She was standing at the edge of the trees, maybe 30 feet away, half lit by the flashing glow of the fireworks, still wearing that same black hoodie, but her arms were hanging in this unnatural way, stiff, elbows bent slightly outward. Her head tilted sideways just enough to make my skin crawl. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking past me, or maybe through me. I didn't move, couldn't. I just stood there, every instinct in my body screaming to go, but my legs were locked up. Then she took a step forward, not fast, not aggressive, just one slow, dragging step, like she didn't care if I saw her or not. That's it for me. I turned and ran, full sprint to my car. Fumbled the keys and slammed the door. Didn't even wait for the engine to fully turn before peeling the hell out of there. I didn't look back once, and I couldn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch with the TV on, but at a very low volume, just watching the light flicker across the walls, like it might chase off whatever followed me home. Every time a car passed outside, or the fridge made one of its usual clicks, my heart jumped. I kept checking the back door to make sure it was locked, then checked again, and again. I didn't even take off my shoes. The weirdest part? I kept telling myself I hadn't actually seen anything. Just a girl in a hoodie, standing near the trees. Nothing illegal, nothing supernatural. But my body knew better. My whole nervous system had gone DEFCON 1 for a reason. The next morning, I got in my car just to prove to myself everything was fine and drove past the fairgrounds around noon. It looked totally normal. Kids with balloons, some church group handing out flyers, a pony tied to a fence post. But when I asked one of the volunteers where the specific fortune-telling tent was, she gave me this confused look and said she hadn't seen any tent like that. Not this year. I thought maybe I was just early, or maybe the girl packed up and left. But then I asked around more. I even walked to the edge of the grounds where the porta-johns were, but nothing. Just empty space and trampled grass. While I was walking near the concessions area, I overheard two volunteers talking behind one of the snack stands. They were whispering, but I caught the word stabbing and stopped cold. I walked up and asked what happened. They looked at each other, kind of unsure, but one of them finally said that after the fireworks the night before, someone got jumped in the parking lot. Robbed, stabbed, then left behind a row of cars for almost 20 minutes before anyone noticed. They pointed, and it was just right toward the area by the tree line, the same spot where I saw her. The victim survived, thankfully, but that feeling in my gut that told me to leave early, that thing she said in the tent, it all slammed back into place. That was the moment I stopped thinking it was just some weird prank or fluke encounter. That was the moment it turned real. It's been a while since then. Life moves on, I guess. But every now and then, usually when I'm in a crowd or walking past something that doesn't quite feel like it fits, I get this cold flush over my spine, like someone's trying to warn me again. And this time, I listen. It started the first week of summer break, 2018, when we were finally free from finals and just starting to pretend life was going to be easy for a minute. That weird limbo after graduation, where your brain's still fried from exams, but you don't really know what to do with yourself. I remember because we were still addicted to PUBG on mobile. It had dropped that March, and we were grinding duos in every spare second. Phones overheating, power banks on standby, yelling into cheap wired earbuds like our lives depended on it. Anyway, the fair showed up right on schedule. It always hit the outskirts of our town around the first weekend of June, set up in that busted lot behind the post office and the used car dealership with the inflatable gorilla that looked like it was deflating by the hour. It wasn't fancy, just your typical janky-ass county fair. Same rusty rides, same soggy nachos, same weird old dude doing balloon animals with way too much intensity. Me, Darren, Tyler, and Coop had a ritual. Show up around dusk, pretend we weren't hyped, then immediately blow all our cash on ride wristbands and fried garbage. That night started the same way it always did. Churros, dumb games we never won. Tyler shooting his shot with girls who clearly weren't having it. Just regular high school dumbass energy cranked up to 11. This year, though, they added something new. A traveling funhouse. It has this big, cheesy clown face at the entrance, glowing letters that looked like they were jacked from a Spirit Halloween clearance rack, and speakers blaring this crusty-ass loop of circus music that made you want to fight someone after 5 minutes. Most of it was the usual crap. Shaky floors, rubber skeletons popping out from the walls, a tunnel that spins and makes you want to puke. But the very end, that's where they had the mirror maze. It has this old school setup, but it was real glass, and not plastic. Dirty as hell, with warped panels and flickering lights. Everything tinted this sickly green, like it came out of some glitchy found footage horror game. That's where the weird shit kicked off. We were messing around, doing our usual dumb selfies, laughing when Coop face planted into a mirror and almost knocked himself out cold. But then Darren stopped in front of this one panel, the kind that makes you look like human spaghetti, and snapped a solo pic just for laughs. Right after, he looked at it and his face just dropped. We crowded around, and yeah, it was jacked up. He was distorted like usual, but in the reflection behind him, there was someone else. It was a guy wearing this pale yellow shirt and khaki pants. Not something any of us had on. But the freakiest part wasn't the outfit. The face, or whatever passed for one, was all blurred and warped, like someone had smeared it with their thumb. No eyes, no nose, but it has this stretched, wide white smile cutting through the blur, like it was burned into the image. And none of us were standing behind him when he took it. We figured it was some mirror trick. Light bouncing weird, maybe someone from outside the maze reflecting in. We clowned on him, called him paranoid, and moved on like total dumbasses. But looking back, that photo, that was just the beginning. We left the mirror maze laughing it off, but I could tell Darren was still bugged. Dude kept checking his phone like the pic was going to change or vanish or something. Honestly, I didn't blame him. The thing had this creepy, wrong energy to it, like a glitch in reality that you couldn't explain but also couldn't unsee. We hit a few more rides after that. The Scrambler, that busted-ass tilt-a-whirl, even the Ferris wheel. Darren kept trying to shake it off, but every time he checked his camera roll, he got quiet. Me and Coop were goofing around, trying to make him laugh, but that dead-eyed look didn't leave his face. That wasn't like him. Around 10:30, we dipped and headed back to Darren's place. His parents were out of town, so it was our usual hangout spot. We crashed on his porch with sodas and leftover nacho fries, talking trash and pulling up the rest of the photos from the night. That's when shit got really weird. We noticed it first in a group shot we took using Tyler's phone near the corn dog stand. We were posing like idiots, all smiles and middle fingers. But in the background, in the window of a food stall, that same yellow shirt guy, just standing there, blurry as hell, still has no face, and with a nightmare smile. Then another picture. This time, Coop showed us his phone. It was a photo he took from the Ferris wheel line. The reflection in the metal shiny support beams. The same figure was there. And again, this one was from Darren's room. A dumb mirror selfie I took, with all of us throwing up middle fingers. But in the corner, where his dresser mirror reflected part of the hallway, it was there too. And worst, it was a little closer. We tried deleting the pics, but it didn't work. We restarted our phones, and still nothing. Darren was losing it, and can't control his anxiety. He was so freaked out and fed up. He did the unthinkable. Full factory reset. Nuked everything in his phone. No apps, no accounts, clean slate. But when the phone powered back on, the photo was still there. No backups, no clouds. Nothing should have survived that wipe. And yet, staring back at him, same image, same timestamp, like it never left. That's when the panic set in for the rest of us. And I mean full-on meltdown mode. Coop threw his phone across the porch like it burned him. Tyler ripped his phone case off like it was covered in bugs and hurled his phone straight into the neighbor's bushes. I remember Darren just staring at the last photo, whispering under his breath, like he was trying to make sense of it. It felt like whatever this thing was, it was following us, not in real time, but through the lens, through glass, through reflections, like it latched on somewhere in that maze and was just riding along in every shiny surface we pointed at ourselves. With all that cursed type shit that went down, trying to sleep that night felt like volunteering for a nightmare. We sat there like idiots, jumpy as hell, smashing phones one by one like it would help. I cracked mine with a hammer in Darren's driveway. Coop stomped his into gravel. It didn't feel like overkill. It felt like survival. And none of us wanted to be the one who took the next photo. By the next afternoon, it was like we'd all made some unspoken pact not to talk about it again. Nobody texted. Nobody posted. Like the second the phones were gone, we could just pretend none of that shit had happened. I half expected to wake up and feel stupid. Like maybe it was just some messed up app bug or freak coincidence. But I didn't feel stupid. I felt watched. The thing is, it didn't show up again. Not in mirrors, not in windows, not in anything, nor anywhere. But that whole thing, it wrecked my teenage brain that time. like deep in my core teenage trauma type of bad. Even after smashing my phone, I'd still caught myself checking reflections, windows, screens, car mirrors, just looking for any flash of yellow, like that thing could crawl out of anything shiny if I looked too long. And nothing ever came. Eventually, we started hanging out again. Normal stuff. Gas station runs, shitty horror movies, talking crap about which one of us would fail community college first. But none of us ever brought up that night. Not once. Months later, Darren moved out of state. Tyler started dating some Christian girl who hated phones, which worked out real damn well for him. Coop deleted all his socials and went full ghost mode. And when he got a new phone that year, he never used the phone camera again. Same as me. I slapped stickers over the front and back camera the day I got it. No selfies and no front-facing photos. Just felt safer that way. Here's the part that still screws with me. Last summer, I was cleaning out a junk drawer in my room and found an old USB drive. Just a cheap one, the kind you get as a promo at school. No label. I plugged it into my laptop thinking maybe it had essays or old memes. There was one folder on it, just one. And inside, 5 photos. Same damn images we thought we destroyed. The one from the mirror maze, one from the Ferris wheel beam, one from the food store window, and one from Darren's bedroom mirror. I just sat there staring at them, completely thrown. I had no idea how they got there. I'd never transferred them. That USB hadn't been plugged into anything in years. I swear I didn't save those photos anywhere else. But in every single one, blurry as hell, tucked in the corner, almost invisible if you weren't looking for it, there he was, wearing his yellow shirt, khakis, and his white smile. No face, no eyes, just that damn demonic grin. I formatted the drive, smashed it with a wrench, then threw the pieces into 3 different public trash bins. And 7 years later, I still don't look at mirrors for too long, and I still haven't taken a selfie since. It was one of those seasonal gigs I picked up during summers when I didn't want to be stuck at home or stuck at my part-time grocery job. Our county fair rolled through every June, and if you knew someone, which I did, you could get a clean-up job no problem. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid decent, and they didn't care if you had tattoos, smelled like Red Bull, or clocked in half asleep. That year was 2019. I had just finished community college and had no clue what I was doing with my life. My plan, if you could even call it that, was to work odd jobs, save up some cash, and maybe move to Tampa by the end of summer. Nothing locked in, just vibes and a handful of Craigslist job alerts. Working the fair wasn't hard. You just had to be okay with weird hours and trash, like a lot of trash, like more hot dog wrappers and soda cups than a football stadium. I worked with a small crew, usually 4 or 5 of us, and we rotated shifts between the main fairgrounds and the vendor lot out back. Nights were the worst, but I didn't mind the quiet. Most people avoided the late shifts because of how dead and creepy the place got after midnight. Me, I didn't mind it. The fair started in the first week of summer that year, and I signed up for the full stretch. 7 nights in a row, including closing night. That same week, the local news had done a puff piece about the fair pulling in one of its biggest crowds in years. Something like 13,000 people over the 5 days. I remember seeing it on WRAL's Facebook page during a lunch break. But by the time Sunday night rolled around, all that excitement just felt like noise that had already burned out. The last night is always the roughest. Everyone's exhausted. Vendors are trying to pack up fast, and the place feels like it's rotting in real time. The fried food smell goes sour. Trash bags tear open. The rides go dark one by one. You start to realize just how sketchy everything really looks without the lights and music. It's like when they turn the lights on at a dive bar and you finally see the sticky floors. I got assigned the back lot near the food trucks and trailers on closing night. Basically, once the vendors shut down, I'd go in with the power washer and hose down the area, get all the syrup, grease, beer foam, and God knows what off the concrete. Most of the trailers had already dipped by the time I started, but a few were still parked, waiting for morning pickups. The cotton candy trailer was one of them. That thing always gave me the creeps. Even during the day, it didn't look right. It was smaller than the others, like a kid-sized shack with one full-sized window. The paint was faded pink and blue. The inside walls were always coated in this sticky pastel grime, and the fan inside made this whining sound like it was about to die. No one ever stayed in it long after hours. I think it was run by some family business from out of Wilmington or Jacksonville, and they always dipped fast once the crowds died. By the time I got to that part of the lot, it was past midnight. The trailer was locked, no lights, power cord unplugged and coiled. I walked past it like I had a dozen times that week and didn't think twice. Not until I saw something move in the window. At first, I thought it was just leftover steam, or maybe condensation catching the moonlight. Something harmless, something dumb your brain makes up when you're sleep deprived and knee-deep in grunt work. But then I caught it again. A slow, creepy-ass shape shifting behind the glass, like a greasy shadow trying to get comfortable. I froze. My power washer was still blasting away in the background, but I couldn't peel my eyes off that trailer window. It was fogged up from the inside, like someone had been breathing hard in there, which made zero damn sense because nobody had been in that thing for hours. And then I saw it more clearly. There was a face, sort of. It was a kid, a little girl, maybe 7 or 8, except she doesn't look right. She had on this huge, stained t-shirt that looked like it had been dragged through pink and blue sugar puke. Her hair was sticky and matted, like someone dumped syrup on her and left her to rot. But her stare, that's what hit me like a gut punch. She wasn't just looking at me. She was hunting, locked in, like when a hawk zones in on something. Her eyes were way too wide, borderline cartoonish, and she didn't blink. Her head tilted just slightly, and for a split second, I thought she was about to grin. But she didn't. She just kept watching. I took a step back, heart pounding. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe I needed sleep. Maybe some feral kid slipped in and got stuck somehow. I grabbed the radio and buzzed in, told my supervisor someone was in the cotton candy trailer. He sounded like he'd just woken up from a nap and muttered he'd be there in a minute. While I waited, I circled to the side door, still padlocked, tight. I even gave it a tug like a dumbass, but it was locked solid. I checked the ground. Bone dry. No little footprints, no drag marks, no candy trail. Then I went back to the window, but she was gone. Just poof. Vanished. The inside of the glass was even foggier now, like someone had been breathing right up against it. I leaned in, trying to see past the haze, and that's when I saw it. A handprint, kid-sized and tiny, right in the center of the glass. And it wasn't just fog, it was sticky as hell. I could see the grime left behind like cotton candy syrup and grime all mashed together. Like someone licked their hand, dipped it in sugar, and slapped the window just to freak me the hell out. My supervisor finally rolled up in the cart. I waved him down, told him everything in this half-yelling, half-panicked blur. He climbed out, gave the window a glance, knocked once, and looked at me like I'd grown a second head. The trailer was empty. No sound, no movement. Just fog, a sugar-slick handprint, and a whole lot of bad vibes. We didn't even bother opening the damn thing. He just shrugged, told me to wrap up, and drove off like it was just another Tuesday. I stood there, staring at that handprint as it slowly melted away. Swear to God, that was the last night I ever worked at any fairground. Now, I don't fuck with cotton candy, not even a little. Just the smell of it makes my skin crawl, like something's about to grab me from behind. Alright, we've reached the end of tonight's stories. I'll let the rain take over from here. Just relax, drift off, and get some rest. See you next time.